Good evening and welcome to the Stephanie Humphrey channel. Woohoo! How are you all doing this evening? Look, I'm celebrating y'all because it has been a week since I've been on the podcast or on my blog or on YouTube, wherever you might be listening or however you might be listening. I was supposed to end the 2021 book study last week on the 31st, New Year's Eve. But you all, I got so sick. Like I was unable to come on the broadcast because I was in so much pain and I just wasn't able to do it. And so I was sick for a few days. And, it's so interesting that sometimes when we're going through sickness, like I was not happy about it, none of us are. But sometimes when we go through one thing, it reveals something else. So that's what happened in my sickness. In the midst of my sickness, God revealed something else to me that I needed to know. And so while I'm not thankful for my sickness, I am thankful for how God chose to speak to me through my sickness. And so I'm doing well tonight. Thank you, Jesus. With the stripes of Jesus, I am healed. He was wounded for my transgressions. He was bruised for my iniquity. The chastisement of my peace was upon Jesus, and with his stripes, I am healed. And y'all better believe I was declaring the scriptures all up and through my home as I was recovering, as I was recuperating, as I was feeling better. And I thank God for his healing. I'm still it's interesting because I'm stuffy in my nose, but my nose has not been running. I have not blown my nose. And so it's so interesting, just the stuffiness that I'm feeling. But if I sound a little nasal, then it's just because of my stuffy nose, for whatever reason. And so I'm so excited. I know this is 2022, and on the screen you see 2021 book study because I am going to wrap up our 2021 book study tonight with our very last book, or my last book written and published is entitled A Return to Love. And so I'm going to read a little bit of that on tonight. So let's go ahead and get it started. I like this book, y'all. I say that every week, right? Every time I'm reading a book, I'm like, I like this book, but I like this book for different reasons. As you hear me say, I like all of my books for so many different reasons. And so I like this particular book. Y'all, am I going to tell y'all my secret about this book? No, I think I'm just going to take it to the grave. I think I'm going to take it to the grave. But anyway, there is a secret about this book. Maybe I'll reveal it later, or maybe, like I said, I'll just take it to the grave. But this book features Robert, who is the President of the United States, and Sabrina, who is a scientist. And the book actually gives an intro. I'm going to show you. The book actually gives an intro to both Robert and Sabrina. I'm not going to read this, but you'll see Robert's intro is first. It gives you just a little bit of background about Robert Thurgood Bradshaw. That name, right, y'all? And then it gives you a little intro to Dr. Sabrina Albertina Lewis. I love their name. And then it takes you into a little bit about, so it starts with Sabrina. I'm not going to read the start of chapter 1, but this is one of only 2 books that I have that actually has chapter names. So all of my books have chapters, but this one, let me go back to the table of contents, actually has chapter names attached to it. And so chapter 1 is Sabrina's Secret. And so I'm not going to read the first part of chapter 1 because I want to get to some other more meatier parts of this story. So it opens up with Sabrina actually finishing up a STEAM convention and expo. She was the featured speaker. She has written, I can't remember how many books she's written, but she is actually signing her latest book for those who have decided to purchase it. And so it takes us through that just as she's signing the books, as she's going to meet with some of the convention and expo leaders. They had a big dinner for her and all the rest of the speakers at the convention. And so she's speaking to them. And then we're going to go into the very next day. The book takes us to her going to the hotel so she can rest for the evening. But the part that I want to get to tonight is her actually getting up the next morning to go home. So I would say it's actually a couple of pages into chapter 1. And so let me get there. Yeah, here we go. So this is Sabrina talking to a few of the other convention attendees as they are getting into the hotel shuttle to get back to the hotel. To get back to the airport so they can go home. All right. You all are getting an early start too, huh? Sabrina chatted with a few of the convention attendees. Yes, it's been a busy weekend, but well worth it, one of the women answered. I'll say, I'm just ready to stretch out across my own bed, another chimed in. I'm just ready to get home with my wife and kids, one of the men said. Sort of. The quartet chuckled. Once their bags were secured in the trunk, the shuttle driver checked with the group. Everyone buckled up and ready? Yes, I'm ready. Let's do it. Sabrina happily chatted with the group as they moved through the city. But as they turned down the road to the airport and past the terminals, an uneasiness settled in Sabrina's stomach. She stiffened. Something wasn't right. She knew she was going back by the same private plane that picked her up, but surely her passengers weren't. So why did the driver not drop them off? She soon felt the tension in the air as her panic became palpable to the other passengers. She watched in dismay as the van driver pulled into a hangar and the door shut behind them. She took a deep breath on the inside. God, what is happening? Please protect me. Let your angels keep me safe and alive. Let no harm come to me in Jesus' name. Give me wisdom, God, strategy for whatever is going on right now. And for the next few minutes, maybe hours to come, in Jesus' name, amen. Dr. Lewis, our boss would like to meet you, the woman beside Sabrina informed her without even a look. Sabrina turned to her. Who is your boss? He would like to maintain anonymity at this time, she answered. Why does he want to meet with me? Sabrina whispered. That is information I don't have, ma'am. Sabrina glanced between her and the gentleman on the other side of her. She glanced at the back of the head of the passenger and the driver, who avoided eye contact in the rear view mirror. Tongue twister. Do all of you work for this anonymous boss? Yes, the woman answered. But I saw you all at the convention, Sabrina noted and then sighed. To gain a level of trust and to keep my suspicions down, of course. Sabrina shook her head as she thought back to the last-minute call of a private plane to pick her up and carry her to the convention. She thought that strange, but the convention host shared that she was a celebrity in their eyes, and they wanted to roll out the red carpet for her arrival instead. They had indeed treated her like royalty from the time she was picked up until a few minutes ago. All of this had to be the work of this anonymous person. But how could he or she have known? And the convention staff? Was the convention staff a part of this? No, ma'am, the man on the other side of her answered. They have no idea. They were given a last-minute donation to offer the plane for your arrival and departure as an innovator in science, which is how our boss references you. Sabrina turned to him. This boss of yours knows my work? What does he want me to do? Build a bomb or something? No, ma'am, the man replied. No, of course not, the lady declared. Dr. Lewis, it is nothing like that. Our boss genuinely wants to talk to you, the man continued. What if I refuse to go with you? Will you drug me, knock me out, kidnap me? No, ma'am, the woman answered. Our boss has instructed us that not one hair on your head is to be out of place. As far as your possible refusal, well, ma'am, we are hoping that you will come on your own, the man answered. And if I don't? Wait, not one hair on my head? We were asked to gently guide you to the plane. His voice weakened a bit. I don't think so. Sabrina grabbed her phone. Of course, you all have jammed the signal. If you can manipulate my flight arrangements, surely you can jam my cell signal. Let me out. 3 doors opened and Sabrina slid out behind the gentleman. She opened the trunk, grabbed her luggage, and promptly walked to the side door. I don't know where she thought she was going. It was locked. How do I get out of here? On the plane, the woman answered. Sabrina looked around. There was no other way to get out and nowhere for her to run. She was stuck. She shook her head and closed her eyes. Lord, what do I do? I don't feel like I am in any danger, but this is odd. What if their boss really does want me to make a chemical weapon of mass destruction? The fact that she can even do that is awesome, right? Anyway, we don't want her to do it. What if they are hiring me into some sort of trafficking ring? What if, wait a minute. She observed her 4 companions. The 2 women had their hair tucked in a bun. Their stance, military. The men were freshly shaven with neat haircuts. Their stance, Marines. All of them. Did all of you serve in the military? Marines? We were instructed to tell you that our boss wants to see you and that we will not harm you. The flight will take 2 hours, but there is food, drink, and reading material on the plane. You will not be able to call your family on the way, but you will once you reach your destination. The woman spoke again. Please, Dr. Lewis. Now, if somebody tried to kidnap you, you think they would say, please? Please, Dr. Lewis. Our boss is gentle and will not harm you either, the passenger added. Sabrina turned to him. Can you guarantee that? I can guarantee that our boss will not physically or verbally harm you. I cannot speak for the rest, he replied. I would have been like, what you mean? Anyway, reading on. Sabrina did not consider herself a stupid person. She's a scientist after all, right? She was quiet, focused, and observant. Her level of expertise in the scientific field taught her to pay attention to details, and life had taught her to pay attention to the churns in her belly, AKA the Holy Spirit. And currently, everything in her spirit signaled that boss was a person from her past. But who? She perused her memory bank. Who could it be? God, am I supposed to comply with this request or resist and risk only God, only you know what? I don't want to move without your permission, and I don't want to be harmed. Who is it, Lord? Who? Sabrina waited. Now, sometimes God do answer right away, and sometimes God is going to answer in his time. But Sabrina waited. She continued her trip down memory lane, assessing and refiling her experiences. She finally paused at her last year in graduate school. The joy she felt and the subsequent pain, it can't be. Can it, Lord? He would have the means to find me and set this elaborate plan for us to meet. He would definitely have ordered his people to make sure not one hair on my head be harmed, as he heard my dad say numerous times. He would certainly want to remain anonymous because he would want me to come. But why now, after all these years? Maybe he needed help to process his wife's death. Or maybe, no, that couldn't be it. Could it? Sabrina's eyes moved around the hangar. Everyone's eyes were on her without being on her, waiting for her compliance, but anticipating the possibility of her resistance. Sabrina sighed, God, if this is who I think it is, help me. And for his sake, help him. She turned to the woman who had sat beside her. I will go with you. But if one of you tries to hurt me, I will fight you. And I don't care anything about that gun you each have on your hip, as I know how to handle one too. Sabrina noticed the driver stifle a grin. Check and check, Dr. Lewis. The man who had been beside her answered. The driver moved toward her bags. I am capable of rolling my own luggage to the plane, Sabrina informed him. I would like to go ahead and load it in cargo, ma'am. Please. He replied and waited until she relinquished it. The woman quickly added, this way, ma'am. She extended her hand and moved toward the plane. Sabrina followed. So I'm going to stop right here. It goes into her meeting Mr. Fred. Mr. Fred is the man that has been assigned to fly the plane, or fly the plane, yes, but fly Sabrina to her requested destination. And so I'm going to skip all of this. It just talks about her getting on the plane. It talks about the breakfast that this anonymous boss prepared for her, which is absolutely one of her favorites. And once she gets that breakfast, she knows that it's him. And I want to get to the part where they actually meet. So we are here safe and sound, Dr. Lewis, Fred announced once they landed. And I will be waiting right here for word about your stay. So what she told Mr. Fred is, or what I think Mr. Fred told her, once we get there, if you don't want to stay, I've been instructed to take you, back to, or really to your destination, to your home destination. So Mr. Fred is waiting for her to determine if she's going to stay with this mysterious boss or if she's going to opt to go home. All right. Sabrina's jaw dropped as she stared at the massive cabin, a manicured lawn and mountains as far as her eyes could see. This is gorgeous, Sabrina whispered. This way, please, Dr. Lewis. The woman escorted her to the door, and one of the men followed. We will not come in, ma'am, but our boss is waiting. Thank you for your kindness, both of you, all of you. They nodded, and once she entered the house, the woman closed the door. Sabrina took a deep breath. Robert came around the corner. What gave me away? So it is you. Why the elaborate scheme to get me here? You could have just called. Not for what I need to talk to you about. And what do you need to talk to me about? Why don't you come into the kitchen so we can have something to eat? You fed me on the plane. Robert grinned. So you did eat. I wasn't sure. Sabrina took a moment to observe Robert. She had watched him on television and on social media countless times, but seeing him in person was different. He looked good, tired, but good, real good. And the way his lips upturned as he stared at her, hands on his hips, had her remembering when they were in love. Robert observed her too. You are still, now this is him thinking, you are still so beautiful, Sabrina. You have lived an extraordinary life. Why did I ever let you go? Robert took a step toward her. Is it okay if I tell Mr. Fred to go? Not until you tell me why I'm here and why I am staying for 3 days. What is going on, Robert? We need to talk, Sabrina. You have made that part clear. What is a topic of our discussion? Excuse me, what is a topic of our conversation? Sabrina grew impatient as the silence lingered. I'm out of here. Sabrina turned to leave. I want to talk to you about destiny. Sabrina froze. Robert waited for her to turn around, but she didn't. He walked around to meet her eyes. Can we talk about destiny? Destiny who? She avoided eye contact. Destiny Lewis, your daughter, my daughter, our daughter, Robert whispered. Sabrina shot her eyes at him. How did you find out I have a daughter? Robert sighed within. She wrote me. Sabrina pushed away from him. Robert, did you contact her? No, she contacted me as a pen pal. She said it was a school assignment. She also said her mom told her that the people who are in the highest positions need the most encouragement. Sabrina shook her head. He searched her face. Will you stay? I don't have a choice, do I? You do. You can go home, and I promise I won't contact you again, but I would like you to stay. Robert, please, Sabrina, I want to know my daughter. She is mine, isn't she? Sabrina turned her back to him. Robert shook his head. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea. I will let Mr. Fred know that you will be right out. In 3 days, right? He stared at her back. I will let Mr. Fred know you will be right out in 3 days. Robert spoke to one of his agents waiting by the door. He grabbed her suitcase, bag from beside the door, and closed it. Her suitcase and bag from behind the door and closed it. Your room is this way if you like to settle in. Sabrina followed him down the hall. Robert set her belongings on the chest at the foot of the bed. I'm going to make tea, if you'd like to join me in the kitchen in a few minutes. Robert closed the door and moved to the kitchen. Have you all ever had anybody from your past to pop back up? Maybe somebody that you have some unresolved issues or concerns with? Put it in the chat or the comment section to let me know. For me, I don't think I've ever had anybody to pop up from my past that I've had unresolved issues with, or like a romantic relationship or even a friendship relationship that have popped up. Any relationships that I had, whether romantic or not, were either settled or we just went our separate ways, and I haven't, seen that individual or those individuals. So yeah, just let me know. Has anybody in your past ever popped up? And if they did, were you able to resolve whatever the conflict was or whatever the issue was? Go ahead and add it to the chat or the comment section. All right. So this is Robert praying. God, I felt you leading me to do this. Maybe not in the way that I went about it, but I felt that Sabrina and I needed to meet. God, let your peace reign as we talk. Help us to be honest with each other. Let Sabrina forgive me and be willing to work out a plan for me to get to know our daughter. God, this is crazy. Feels so crazy. I need your help. Father, help us work through this in Jesus' name. Robert glanced toward the whistle. He fixed Sabrina's tea and waited. 20 minutes later, he went down the hall and knocked on Sabrina's door. With no answer, he went in. Robert glanced around the empty room and then at the open patio door. He chuckled. Of course, she is exploring. She is a scientist in a secluded area. Robert closed the door and went outside through the kitchen. She went toward the lake. One of his agents spoke to him. Zachariah with her? Yes, sir. Thank you. Robert took the path toward the lake. Everything okay? Zachariah side-eyed his boss. She has been sitting in that same spot, just as about as still as she is right now, for the last 20 minutes. This may not have been a good idea. Give her some time, Robert. She hasn't seen you face to face in 11 years. And now you have revealed a secret, her secret, something that you shouldn't know. She is processing how this has happened and probably like you, why it is happening now. She agreed to 3 days, so give her time. She will be back in when she's ready. Robert sighed. I hope it doesn't take all 3. You know she is stubborn. Zachariah glanced at his friend, like you. Robert pushed him, and the two fought a few rounds. I'm going in to fix lunch. Keep her safe for me, please. You know I will. Robert slapped Zachariah on the back and headed up the hill. An hour later, Sabrina stepped back into her room. She could barely believe that her and Robert were in the same space. What in the world possessed her daughter to make the decision to write the President of the United States of America, AKA her dad? Why is this happening now? Will my career suffer if this news gets out? Life is just too wonderful right now for interruption. Woo. Sabrina shook her head as she remembered a quote from an old sitcom. When life gets too comfortable, it's time to move on. God, I need you. Sabrina spread her prayer shawl on the floor beside the bed and knelt. She took the second one and wrapped it around her. God, I'm not sure why this is happening now. I'm not sure about your timing or your plan in this. God, I trust you. But I am feeling so many emotions right now. Fear, intimidation, happiness, relief, and hope. Hope that is speaking to a future that I never envisioned for myself. Well, let me restate that. A future I haven't envisioned for myself in a long while. Sabrina shook her head. Could it be happening now, God? Could this be a turning point in my life? The start for a more global reach for my STEM or for STEM? I'm not STEM, but STEAM. For those of you who don't know STEAM, STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Not to mention restoring the love I lost, the chance to have my family. Sabrina paused a few minutes to reflect. God, please give me direction. Help me to be honest and open with the conversation Robert and I need to have. God, I must admit another emotion. Anger. Y'all knew what it was, right? I am angry that Destiny and Robert initiated this moment. And I am angry with me that I didn't tell him before now. Come on, that's real. That I didn't tell Destiny. Will she be mad at me for not telling her the whole truth? Will she lash out? Sabrina shook her head. God, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I trust you. I trust you with my life. I trust you with my daughter's life. And I trust you with this moment, with these next moments. God, please let it be what it is supposed to be. And let us move forward to what is best for Destiny. Sabrina quieted herself and listened to what the Lord would say. Several minutes later, she got up, went to the bathroom to freshen up, and followed her nose to the kitchen. Y'all, that was just the end of chapter 1. And I'm going to read at least the start of chapter 2. Chapter 2 is the connection. Sabrina smiled as she rounded the corner. When did you become so domesticated? Because I don't remember you stepping not one foot in the kitchen unless you were sampling my food or it was time to eat. It smells good, by the way. Robert chuckled. Well, it has been nearly 11 years. Don't you think a man is entitled to grow? Thank you. Sabrina rolled her eyes as she slid onto the bar stool. I suppose. But what has led to this transformation, pray tell? And you're welcome. When you want to eat, you must cook. Now, I know that's right. Y'all young men got to know us modern day women are not going to be cooking your meal every single day. Most of us, let me clarify, most of us modern day women are not going to cook your meal, every single one of your meals, like maybe your mom did or maybe your grandma did. And I'm going to leave that there. When you want to eat, you must cook. The Bible says you don't work. Well, that's if you don't work, you don't eat. So never mind, smash that. Sabrina frowned at him, but you were married. I was, Robert confirmed, avoiding her eyes. Sabrina monitored Robert's actions as he slowly shut down, physically and emotionally. While she wanted to probe, she decided against it. I smell bacon, and is that French toast? Y'all, I got a bacon story, but I'm not going to tell it right now. I might tell it another time. Yes, and yes. Along with vegetable omelets, we are having strawberry and cream cheese stuffed French toast. I knew what it was. I was trying to remember without reading it. So strawberry and cream cheese stuffed French toast, which is absolutely delicious, y'all. And the bacon is for me. I'm impressed. Robert's lips upturned. Don't be. Just another day in the office. Ha ha. Robert smiled at her. We're going to eat at the table. He set their plates there. This looks delicious, Robert. He smiled at her and blessed the food. His lips upturned again as he watched Sabrina take several bites before she made a face at him. Delicious, Robert. This combination is savory. I aim to please. He couldn't help but notice her middle finger. That is a beautiful ring you're wearing. Oh, let me try that again. That is a beautiful ring on your finger. It looks like an antique. Sabrina glanced at the ring. I forgot I was wearing it. I am happy you still have it and that you are wearing it. So for those of you who don't know about the ring, I actually took the ring from a favorite TV show of mine. And I'm kind of curious to know if anybody knows what that could be. I'm not going to tell you, but if you think you know what TV show I took that particular portion from about the ring, drop it in the chat or the comment section. Just a little shout out to that TV show. Of course, I still have it. It was your grandmother's wedding ring. You gave it to me in love. I treasure it in love. Besides, I love wearing it. It took me a long time to put it back on, but once Destiny was born, I wanted to make sure that I remembered to speak well of you always. Even when memories of our breakup initially threatened my sanity, I would glance at this ring and remember that Destiny was conceived in love. And I wanted to make sure that those feelings were always present as I raised her. It also gave me a way to be close to you, Sabrina whispered. He smiled. He had something to remind him of her too, but he would share that later. Robert, noticing her discomfort, moved to a safer topic, a safer subject. Did you enjoy your time at the lake? I did. Thank you for that. For just letting me be for a while. Of course, Sabrina. You know I will never force anything on you. He chuckled at her smirk. Outside of getting you here, I will never force anything on you. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful here, Robert. Thank you. So, how has your heart really been in your first year of the presidency? Robert shook his head. My heart, Sabrina, that's him thinking. My heart, Sabrina. How much time do you have? Just give me the highlights. So, this is like the next section. Sabrina took a short walk while Robert cleaned the kitchen. Ooh, ain't that good, y'all? He cooked and he cleaned. You better get him, girl. Lord, thank you that Sabrina agreed to stay with me. This conversation is going to be difficult, but I pray that you will give us the strength we need to be honest and to make it through. I know we don't have much time, but I'm hoping we can plan to move forward together, hopefully as a family. Robert glanced up as Sabrina stepped into the kitchen. He stood from the bench by the side window and poured himself another cup of coffee. Can I get you something? I would like some tea, but I can get it. Wash up and have a seat. I got it, Robert informed her. And he getting her tea now, okay? Sabrina followed his direction. He soon put a mug in front of her. Did you enjoy your second round of me time? Sabrina nearly spit out her tea. You purposed that, didn't you? You are always so poised, Robert reminded her. Sabrina rolled her eyes, took a sip of her tea, and glanced at him. This tea is delicious. I added your ginger. Sabrina whispered. You remembered? Of course I remembered. Robert took a sip of his coffee, observing her. I remember everything about you, Sabrina. Everything. At first, he thought pushing her was a mistake, but that was soon dismissed. Me too, about you, Sabrina spoke softly. He touched her hand, resting on the table as they settled into that knowledge. I also remember that someone liked giving cards to encourage others. He watched Sabrina sip her tea. You don't hear me? Okay. Robert reached beside him and set a box on the table. He sifted through the files. Sabrina smirked. Nice filing system you got there. He chuckled. You taught me well. I'm glad you were paying attention. I was. He retrieved a brown envelope. I received this card during my run for US Senate. Handmade. I guess the sender could not find a card that said what she or he wanted to say. You see the details they put in? The meadow, complete with beautiful red flowers and a river running through it. The sun, birds, and clouds. A lone person staring up at the sky, arms extended. I believe the sender wanted to remind me to focus my eyes on heaven. I also believe that she or he wanted me to focus on Psalm 23, which is remarkably similar to a day I spent with someone I deeply cared for, where we prayed this psalm. Robert set the card on the table. This one came after I won the US Senate seat. Very simple with balloons, streamers, and a cherry pie cupcake. There is only one person who knows that this particular cupcake is one of my favorite desserts because she is the only one who has made it for me. He set it beside the other card. He reached back in the box and brought out two cards. I received these two during my run for president. I was, Robert took a deep breath. It was a tough campaign. And these two cards, they ministered to my soul. Robert blinked back the tears. There are more, but I wanted to show you these. What is interesting about each of these cards is that there is no return address on the envelopes. Nowhere any of them, nor were any of them addressed to me. They were always delivered on my desk, tucked in one of my favorite magazines. Do you know anything about them? Sabrina shrugged. Each card is unique and special because they featured pictures of intimacies that I've shared with only one person. Are you sure you don't know anything about them? Sabrina simply stared at him. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you for encouraging me, for ministering to me, for loving me. Sabrina continued to stare at him. Okay, I will let it go. For now, Robert smirked at her before reaching to the middle of the box. He pulled out a letter and handed it to her. Daughter like mother. Sabrina already knew that the specially printed blue stationery belonged to her daughter. She glanced at Robert before she took the pages. Dear Mr. President, first, congratulations on your win. My mom and I were rooting for you. Your platform of hope, sustainable energy plans, equity in our communities and schools, and more caught our attention. Anyway, my mom said that the people in the most powerful positions need the most encouragement. So I'm writing this letter to let you know that Mom and I pray for you. We prayed for you as you ran for office, and we will continue to pray for you now that you are the most powerful man in the world. Arguably, a little humor. Just know that with all the decisions you're making, all the thoughts you're having, all the places you'll go, and the things you'll do, we are praying for you. My family and church are covering you in prayer too. One of our prayers is that you will listen to God and allow Him to direct you as you lead the country. P.S. My class has chosen pen pals to practice our writing skills. I have a pal in a sister country, but decided to write you too. I hope you don't mind. P.S.S. Don't tell my mom. And then it has a little smiley face. Sincerely, Destiny. Sabrina shook her head. My daughter. Our daughter. Robert glanced at her over his mug. My daughter, Robert Bradshaw. Now, how many of these do you have? 10. Just like that letter, Destiny never included her last name, and she used a post office address several times over. Our daughter is smart, just like her mom. Robert held Sabrina's eyes. All of them are here for you to read, but this is the one that asked me to help her find her father. The only letter where she states her full name. Robert paused. And yours. Y'all excuse me for just a minute. Sabrina sighed as she stared at the letter. Sabrina, is Destiny my daughter? Did our lovemaking produce our child? Sabrina sighed deeply and finally met his eyes. Yes, Robert, Destiny is your daughter. He reached his hand across the table to touch her fingers. Tell me about it. Sabrina took a deep breath. It was bad enough being in the same room as Robert, and now he was touching her again. Do you mind if we move somewhere more comfortable? Yes, of course. Robert hadn't even considered that they would need to be in a cozier location for this very long conversation. Let me put our casserole in the oven. Get comfortable in the living room, and I will be right out. Do you want more tea? No, thank you. Once they settled into the living room, Sabrina began. I found out I was pregnant a month after you broke my heart. Sabrina shook her head. That wasn't nice. So let me begin again. I found out I was pregnant a month after you decided that you and I should not get married. I was just getting over my hurt and anger and hadn't even paid attention to my cycle. Mom noticed my behaviors and posed the question of a possible pregnancy. My doctor confirmed that I was 6 weeks along shortly after. I went back and forth about telling you for 2 months. I was scared that you would not believe me, that you would reject me again. But I pushed through my fear and decided you deserved to know. A few days later, you announced your run for Senate seat, and I knew I couldn't. Why not? Sabrina frowned at him. Because the scandal of your illegitimate biracial child would have killed your political career and potentially the goals and dreams I had set for myself. Or excuse me, I had set for my own life. For my own life, yeah, thank you. I couldn't risk it. Sabrina stood. Robert stood. Sabrina, I am not ashamed of the love we share, and I would never be ashamed of the child that our love produced. How would you insinuate that? How could you insinuate that? Sabrina stared at him. We share, is what she was thinking to herself. I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about your party, your constituents, and unfortunately, the people so blessed to live in this world. You might have been okay as a state senator, but that may have been the extent of your political career. Even if they had let you slide, they would have had a field day with me. I would not put my child or myself through that. I know I should have included you in the decisions I made concerning destiny, but I could not risk possible rejection and exposure. So I held that truth from you. Sabrina sighed, and from my daughter. I am sorry that I denied you and Destiny 10 years of knowing each other. I sincerely apologize for that. But I did what I felt was best at the time. Isn't that what parents do, y'all? Just you do what you feel is best for your child and for yourself at the time of making the decision. It just kind of is what it is, you know? What would you all have done? Like, would you have told your baby's dad that you were pregnant if he was pursuing a political career, or maybe if he had just started a business, or whatever the case may be? You know, are there any circumstances that would keep you from telling your child's father that he is her father or he is his father? Just kind of curious to know. You can drop it in the chat or add it to the comment section. When I read Destiny's letter, I was so angry with you. My first inclination was to ask the agency to find you just so I could bang on your door without fear of who saw me and ask you myself. Once I calmed down, I rationalized the scenarios that caused you to withhold this information. I did the math, as you did. He met her eyes. It may have been okay, Sabrina. We might. Robert paused and thought back to everything going on at that time. He met Sabrina's eyes. As much as it pains me to say this, Sabrina, you are probably right. I would have rejected the truth that destiny was mine. It pains you that I am right? Are you serious, Robert? Sabrina crossed her arms. No, Sabrina, no, I'm sorry. You being right is perfect. It is so much you. What pains me is the secret that caused me to call off our engagement. The same reason that I probably would have rejected destiny as mine. That pains me. That horrible, ugly truth pains me. Robert was pacing now, hands rubbing along his face. Oh, I'm sorry. Sabrina uncrossed her arms. I figured that there was more to the story than you fell out of love with me after we made love. That you felt we could no longer build a life together because of incompatibility. I racked my brain trying to figure out what it was that you were holding back. Sabrina stared off. Speaking of secrets. Well, at the time, I didn't know I had a secret growing inside of me. She shook her head. Either way, I knew you were lying, but you wouldn't confide in me. You wouldn't trust me with your secret either. You told me straight out, now, Robert, you know you were lying, but why? Is exactly what you said. And I was adamant about my position, which made you madder. And you shut down. You wouldn't talk to me. Sabrina stifled a grin. I am sorry about your grandmother's vase or vase, but in my defense, you should have broken it off at my place. Well, you stopped by with breakfast, so I decided to go ahead and get it done. My mistake. Grandma probably rolled in her grave 10 times. It actually says grandmother probably rolled over 10 times. Sabrina shook her head, I'm sure. She touched her ring as Robert sat down beside her and rested his head on the couch. Robert, do you forgive me? No. Robert answered about as soon as she asked. Sabrina shook her head and curled herself on the couch, covering up with the throw from the head mist. Robert glanced at her and an idea struck him. He asked two of his agents to help him move the coffee table to the far wall and the second couch opposite Sabrina. Now he lay face to face with her. He watched her lips curl up. Clever. I have my moments. He watched her for several seconds, refamiliarizing himself with her features. Round face, smooth brown skin, deep brown eyes, full lips, long curly hair. You are more beautiful than ever, Sabrina. Sabrina took her time observing him too. Square face, light brown eyes, straight red hair, and enough stubble on his peach-colored face to add the sexiness that made up Robert Bradshaw. You are just as handsome as you always were, Robert. He smiled at her. I'm sorry for hurting you, Sabrina. I apologize with all my heart. I have long forgiven you, Robert. I have forgiven you too. However, I am still hurt and honestly angry about all of this, directed at you and me, but mostly me. I was a coward and a fool back then, but I'm neither now. Sabrina, I want to know my daughter. I want to meet her so that we can get to know each other. I want to walk, I want to talk about that later, but right now, I want the details of your pregnancy and the first years of your life. Robert smiled at her. Right now, I am enjoying just lying here with you, feeling relaxed. And, well, I will stick with relaxed. And love, Robert finished for her. Sabrina rolled her eyes. Yes, I feel relaxed and loved too, which is a perfect time to keep pushing forward in this conversation, Robert informed her. But I would rather nap after he gently urged her. I don't remember you being so demanding, Sabrina noted. Robert raised a brow at her. You don't? Sabrina rolled her eyes. Once I decided to raise Destiny by myself, I started looking for a home to plant with. If you remember, we were house hunting, and I really wanted that farmhouse you hated so much. Sabrina shook her head at his frown. Anyway, as only the Lord would have it, I was in the grocery store a few weeks later when I ran into Sebastian. We were high school friends who lost touch after graduation. You see, his dad passed away during our senior year, and as the eldest of six, I know about being the oldest, y'all, he opted to attend community college so he could stay home and help his mom. Thankfully, he had finished his undergrad degree and at the time was working on his master's degree. He moved to our city to attend the world-class Stetson's beauty school once he finished. Sabrina adjusted herself. Moving forward, we ended up having dinner at the deli, and I found out that he had worn out his welcome at his friend's house. He was looking for a place to stay, so I told him about the farmhouse, and he said he would be willing to be my tenant. A short time later, I closed on my house, and Sebastian and I moved in the next day. His friend was a structural engineer and helped us fix up the place, along with my dad. Seb was with Destiny and I for the first 5 years of her life while he finished his schooling. Now he is stylist to the stars, his dream job. Robert could feel his anger rise. He was with my daughter, playing daddy. He was Uncle Sebastian, our family friend. But we did grow very close, Sebastian and me. Sabrina noticed a change in Robert. Not like that, if it's any of your business. He was a big help to me, Robert. He was already going to classes online, so he watched Destiny during the day while I worked. And of course, I had her in the evenings and at night. Mom helped too, especially when Seb started beauty school. It was a perfect setup for both of us. I provided the shelter and he provided the childcare. And y'all know childcare is expensive. But it was more than that. We became each other's confidants, bounced ideas off each other. My nonprofit and books and his business ideas. We supported each other not only physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. Everyone needs that kind of love and support, Robert. Sebastian and I provided that for each other. We grew to love each other and all over, we grew to love each other all over again as siblings, nothing romantic. And with all that support, you charged him at his request and only during my pregnancy. Once Destiny was born, I completed my maternity leave. Oh, let me try that again. Once Destiny was born and I completed my maternity leave, we agreed that he would live rent-free. Sebastian, however, did not hold up his end of the bargain. He said it was not right for a man to live off a woman. Come on, somebody. I explained to Sebastian that by caring for Destiny, he was saving me thousands of dollars in childcare. So it was an even exchange. He said, and I quote, "That's what friends do anyway." Now, if you all had a friend staying with you, like helping you out with your children or helping you out, in other ways, I don't know, maybe cooking or whatever, would you charge them rent or utilities? Like, how do you feel about having a roommate living in your home rent-free, especially if they're helping care for your kids where you don't have to pay that childcare fee? So just let me know in the comments or the chat. Sabrina shook her head. He would leave the money on my dresser and I would leave it on his. After 3 months, we agreed that the money would be put away for Destiny's school, and left it like that. Sabrina noticed Robert's soberness. I'm going to have to wrap this up. You don't like that, do you? Another man caring for my child? No, I don't. No, he said, no, I do not. Sabrina nodded. I acknowledge your feelings. Robert was taken aback. He had forgotten what it felt like to have a lady show concern for him, even though he was married, which means there's a story there, right? All right. Sabrina had always been in tune to his feelings. Thank you, Sabrina. You're welcome, Robert. And please note, you will have plenty of time to contribute to Destiny's College Fund and teenage expenses. I will invoice you for the rest. I know that's right. Robert chuckled. I look forward to it, and I'm sure you will. That's what you think, Sabrina warned. I look forward to every day I get to spend with Destiny and with you. Sabrina smirked and finished her story. So Destiny had a fit when Uncle Sebastian left, even though we had been preparing her for 6 months. He gave her a calendar to count down the weeks and everything, but she still protested. It wasn't until Sebastian promised her his firstborn that she stopped pouting. Had to promise a 5-year-old her firstborn, your firstborn, that's a trip. Sabrina laughed. She negotiates like her mom. Sabrina chuckled. Her pouting got her a once-a-year trip to California to see Uncle Seb, and now his wife and son. They video chat no less than once a week. My daughter has met celebrities because Uncle Sebastian calls her when they come to the shop, or if he is called to work a photo shoot. No matter what Seb is doing, he will stop and answer Destiny's call. Sebastian's clients know my daughter by name, and she loves it, being niece to the stylist of the stars. We also traveled to hair shows with him when he stayed with us. She loves her Uncle Sebastian Sinclair. They are two peas in one artistic pod. The Sebastian Sinclair? Sabrina's eyes widened. You know him? This is right here. This is Robert thinking. I saw you with him. Ooh, another story there. Hazel, remember Hazel, well, maybe you don't know because I didn't read the intro. So Hazel is the president's late wife. Okay. So Hazel swore by him. She watched his videos and connected with a few of his celebrity clients. Oh, okay. Well, yes, this is my Sebastian. Or excuse me, that is my Sebastian. He would be more than thrilled that the First Lady of the United States loved his work. The late First Lady. Yes. I got your cards, by the way, when Hazel passed away. Thank you. You're welcome. Robert observed her. You came to the funeral, didn't you? Why are you asking? There was a bouquet of crimson roses on my chair at the burial site. No card, but they were from you. I wasn't sure how you would react if you saw me, but I wanted to support you. So I found my way, like always. Total admission to the cards. Sabrina stifled a grin. It's not. Mm-hmm. He winked at her and then stared off. Sabrina eyed him intently. Are you okay, Robert? I am okay, Sabrina. As you know, Hazel's dad and mine were best friends and business partners. So we found ourselves in the same social circles. Even then, Hazel had challenges. We talked about, remember, her issues, or more so her dad's issues caught up with her. And though it was unexpected, I am not surprised that she felt suicide was her only option. While we were never friends, I wish I could have helped her more, but I have released my guilt over that. Excuse me, but I have released that guilt too. Sabrina held his hand. He enjoyed the reemergence of their love as they locked eyes and held each other. He exhaled as their love swirled around them. Thank you, Lord, for this moment. It is perfect. He allowed several minutes before he continued their conversation. I appreciate your concern and love, Sabrina. Thank you. You're welcome, Robert. But back to you and Sebastian Sinclair. I mean, look at you, rubbing elbows with the big dogs. Of course, you are a big dog. Oh, let me say that again. Of course, you are an international superstar yourself. No, that's my daughter's domain. Sabrina raised her brow. And yours. Touche, Robert replied. Wait a minute. He answers when Destiny calls. Don't tell me she has a cell phone. Courtesy of, guess who? Uncle Sebastian. It is in her possession from 4 to 6, Monday through Friday. She can have it on the weekends up until 8 if she maintains her grades and volunteer hours. And best believe I monitor it, Sabrina informed him. I'm sure, Robert nodded. The two sat in a comfortable silence for a few moments. Robert stretched his hand and gently touched her arm. Tell me about our daughter. Oh gosh, you all, I was looking for a good stopping place, but this chapter keeps going. So I'm going to read these next few lines and then I'll end the book study. Sabrina grinned wide. Robert, Destiny is amazing. She is beautiful and intelligent, compassionate, and community focused. Robert reached out to her again, like her mother. Sabrina took his hand. Like you too, Robert. She is like you in so many ways. She will say or do something, and if I wasn't looking at her, I would declare up and down it was you. Really? Robert perked up. Yes, Sabrina held his eyes, blinking back tears. Robert handed her a tissue from the end table. I'm sorry. Sabrina took it. For what? Thank you. That you had to have reminders of me every day, and you're welcome. Robert, I searched for reminders of you, an earring you may have left at my apartment, clothes, anything that I could touch to remember the love we shared. I missed you so much when I left. He shook away the emptiness and reached into his pocket. I did find this. And I'm going to stop right there. That's a good place to stop. So, what do you think he found of hers? You have to get the book to find out. And you'll have to get the book to find out what the discussion was like as Robert and Sabrina continued to talk about Destiny, and if he was able to meet her, and if he was, what did that look like? So get the book, go to my website at determinedpublishing.com, purchase the book. You can go to amazon.com and get the ebook. It is a really good read, a return to love, the story of Sabrina, of Robert and Sabrina. And y'all, that truly concludes the 2021 book study. I had not planned to bring it into 2022, but you know what? Sometimes our plans do not pan out the way we have planned them, and so it's okay. So look, you all, normally I would have done our Before Ministries Bible study, but I am going to get into Bible study next week, not next year, but next week. So let me tell you what I'm going to do. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining me for the end of our 2021 book study. I had an absolute blast reading excerpts of my books to you. I enjoyed the discussions that took place. I enjoyed sharing my heart and a little bit about what goes on in my brain as it relates to writing my stories. So thank you, one and all, for being a part of the 2021 book study. It was an absolute joy. And maybe I can do something like that in the future if as I continue to write books, right? Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing moving forward. Do I want to share that? Yes, I'll share it. So I'll share what we're going to do next week and the third Thursday. So next week I am going to do Bible study. And y'all, what I'm going to do, I don't have the Bible study theme yet, but what we are going to be doing the first and second Thursdays of each month is we're going to take a walk through the Bible. We're going to start in Genesis next week. And every first and second Thursday, we're going to walk through the Bible. I'm not going to be able to read the Bible from Genesis to Revelations because there's some copyright issues that I don't want to get into. But we're going to start in Genesis. We're going to highlight some scriptures and chapters, and we're just going to continue to move through the Bible. My plan is to highlight some biblical patriarchs and some happenings, excuse me, of the Bible that maybe you aren't familiar with. We're going to talk about them. We're going to discuss them. I'm going to have some special guests coming on, not next week, but as the year progresses, I'm going to have some special guests come on to have these discussions with me about the Bible, about, again, biblical patriarchs, situations that happen in the Bible. Y'all, the Bible is filled, look, y'all, the Bible is filled with mystery, intrigue, romance, murder, what else? What are some other, depending on how you think about it, a little bit of sci-fi, even though it's technically not sci-fi, it's just how God lays it out for us. So it's filled with every genre you can think of is in the Bible. And so we are going to talk about it this year in 2022. I was asking the Lord for a theme. I'm like, walk through the Bible. I don't know what the 2022 Bible study thing will be, but we're going to be walking through this Bible. And I'm pretty sure because the Bible has 66 books and we only have 52 weeks in each year, I'm pretty sure this walk through the Bible is going to go into 2023. And if it does, I am good with that. We're just going to keep moving until we finish. I'm still going to do Sip and Stay with Stephanie on the third Thursday of each month. Welcome to Sip and Stay with Stephanie. So I'm still going to do that, but y'all, because the 2021 book study has ended, the fourth Thursday is also going to be dedicated to Sip and Stay with Stephanie. So the first two Thursdays Bible study, the third and fourth Thursdays is going to be Sip and Stay with Stephanie. I'm also going to have some guests to come on to talk about some social issues, world events. We're just going to talk about it all. We're going to share our opinions. We're going to have some discussions with you in the chat and in the comment section. And we're just going to enjoy our year, okay? So y'all, my personal 2022 theme, I have not put out any flyers or anything, just because I haven't been feeling well. But my personal 2022 theme is renewed and let me get it right. Restored and renewed in 2022. Restored and renewed in 2022. And I'm going to get a little bit more into that a little bit later, okay? But for now, I'm going to end this broadcast. I thank you so much again for sticking with me during the 2021 book study. I look forward to us walking through the Bible together, maybe getting some tough questions answered, talking about some events that maybe we don't know about in the Bible, or we haven't read about, or maybe we're not too familiar with it. We're going to talk about all of that as this year progresses. And as per usual, Sip and Stay with Stephanie is going to be alive, well, and in full force. All right. And since I'm giving y'all everything tonight, y'all know it's January 6th. So 1 year, there's been 1 year since the riots took place on the steps and in the House, the Capitol House, the Capitol Chambers in Washington, D.C. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that next Thursday, but today marked a year. President Biden did address the country today. I was at work, so I did not get to listen to his speech. I will go back and listen to it. The Attorney General of the United States, I can't remember when he did his speech. He had a few things to say. I'm going to listen to his and share some highlights about that as well next week. So look, y'all, we're going to get into January 6th. I know it's going to be a week later, but we're still going to get into it because I know there'll still be some conversations going on about it. The January 6th commission, I'm not sure if they wrapped up yet, so I'm going to get some information about that. And we're just going to chat a little bit about this 1 year since the January riots took place. And the riot, yes, it was not a peaceful protest. It was actually riot because I said, I'm not going to get into it tonight. I'm not going to get into it. But yes, I'm going to share some things next week. Okay, all right. So look, before I go, again, I want to say thank you. Happy New Year. I hope that you enjoy this 2022 year. I hope that you are able to accomplish everything that the Lord has set your hand to do. I pray that you will not let anyone or anything stop you from fulfilling the destiny that God has placed within you. I pray that you will not let anyone or anything stop you from doing what you feel like God has called you to do, writing your book, starting your ministry, starting a podcast, starting an international business, starting a ministry, launching out to be who God has called you to be. Like if He's called you to be a pastor or a prophet or an apostle or evangelist or a teacher or a deacon or a missionary, that you will go forth and do what God has called you to do. I pray that you know and operate in your spiritual gifts so that you can be a blessing to the people that are around you, so that you can influence the people of God or influence this world for God's kingdom. I pray that you, when December 31st, 11:59, 2022 hit, that you can look back over this year and say, man, I did exactly what God commissioned me to do in this 2022 year. I have fulfilled every assignment that God has given to me. I pray that you'll be able to say it, and I'm praying that I'll be able to say it too. All right, y'all. So again, thank you. Take care and enjoy your week. And I'm just gonna take a few minutes to check the chat before I let you go. Oh, I know that's right. My mom put there are some in my past that need to stay in my past. I know that's right. So, but you know what, y'all? You know how I feel about that? I do agree that some people from the past need to stay in the past. But I will say that if events of your past are still affecting you today, that maybe some of those people that were involved in those events that are still bothering you today, some of those individuals may need to come about so that you can get healed and delivered from whatever that past is. Because we can say all day, I'm over my past. I'm done with it. When that person walks in, or when someone says their name, or when someone brings up that situation, if we feel some kind of way about it, that means we're not over it. So yes, some things do need to stay in the past, but some things need to be revealed so that we can be healed and be who God has called us to be. All right, I'm gonna leave that there. So she toyed with his ego on the dinner comment. So he washed the dishes to further impress her. Oh, okay. She used her the power of words. What is it? I've heard wives say that if you talk up your husband, that he'll be more likely to comply with what you're asking him to do. For example, like if he's taking out the trash, you'd be like, baby, look at your muscles bulging out as you're taking out that trash. Or if he's like, painting the back, you wanted him to repaint the bedroom or the bathroom. You'd be like, honey, you looking mighty good up on that ladder. And I don't know, y'all, but I'm just saying I've heard wives say that. When you give your man some compliments, or your spouse those compliments, it influences him to, perk up a little bit and do even more of what you are wanting him to do. A little sweet talk, a little pillow talk. All right. This is just the wives talk. I'm just saying what the wives feel. But she used her power of, I don't know what I want to say. She used her feminine wiles. I don't know what I want to say. So I just want to comment on that one. I'm just going to say laugh out loud and okay. All right. So I think I'm done. Yep, I just wanted to get those comments. All right, y'all. So bye. Enjoy your